Do you think that the government and school board should be looking at community centers for schooling space during this pandemic learning year? This could keep class sizes smaller and help with more physical distancing. Do you think enough has been done or enough thought has been put into class sizes at this time?
Okay, I'm going to be candid.
You can be candid. You can go ahead and do that.
On the issue of class sizes, this is a public health measure. So just on rationale and logic, of course, you want to minimize your contacts. If you want to minimize contacts in a school setting, the way you do that is to minimize your cohort. And the way you do that is to minimize your class size. I mean, it doesn't take too many steps to figure that out. There's a range of literature that shows that 15 is probably the optimal class size with one teacher anyway, for pedagogical reasons. Now, most governments don't implement this. They don't implement them across the board. Now, when we get into emergency education and when we get into recovery and remediation, we also know that having a small ratio is also preferable, again, around 15. So that seems to be the number. Now, we could have, 18, or what we shouldn't be having is, double that size. Denmark, back in April, reopened its schools. It was one of the first countries alongside New Zealand, Vietnam. South Korea had a short interruption. Taiwan had a short interruption. But Denmark was also one of the first countries that reopened schools. And what they did in this first reopening phase, which went, I think, up until the end of June, to the best of my recollection, was they did exactly that. They infused their system with a number of measures, all in the name of public health. And what they did was they used museums, they used community centers, they used public spaces, and they did that for that period. They were able also to put in a host of other measures, which meant that their infection rate went down. When they were reopening in the fall, they reverted back to a more normal size of around, I think in their system it was around 20 or 25. Because it was a well-managed first phase, they were then able to return to a more average class size in September. So, the question is, if we're going to look at this as a public health measure, we need to be thinking about it as more of a temporary measure. But we need to institute it. We should be looking at it as a public health measure to institute kind of immediately. And the horse has bolted on that one because we didn't do it. But, we should be thinking, at least in the hotspot zones, are we going to keep doing this, which is open, close, and keep them closed? Because the literature shows that smaller class sizes are better generally across the board. They're certainly better when we're looking at accelerated learning and when we're actually looking at remediation and coming back to school after disruption. We know that from the literature.